about Introduction to HTML, its meaning, and its application. HTML is a hypertext markup language. It is a form of programming language used to instruct the browser on how to create the structure for individual web page on a website. HTML is responsible for things like text representation, defining, providing search engines with page contents, and designing sections of a web page. Uses of HTML. HTML is used to provide structure to a web page and make it accessible to users of the internet through text, visual formatting, and search factors. It is commonly known as the most basic building block of the web, working alongside CSS and JavaScript to create websites that we see while browsing. So HTML, CSS, and JavaScript basically makes up the front end of web development. So the HTML syntax. HTML syntax is written within simple text documents that end with .html extension. So HTML documentation consists of text elements that can be loaded and read by a web browser. HTML markup functions through the use of elements which describes its functionality and are placed within a descending tree structure. This descending tree structure, I'll still explain it as we progress in this video. HTML tags. HTML tags are simple angle tags that determine where the elements are placed and how they will function. So these angle tags basically tells us that whatever we put in between these tags, let's say we put in a paragraph in between these tags, it's telling us that whatever element or whatever word that we type within that element is going to come in a paragraph form. So for every tag that is open, there is a corresponding closing tag that must be placed in order for it to function. A closing tag is identical to an opening tag, but with a forward slash placed before the element. All markup written within these tags will be structured using the element written within each tag. Just like I said before, if we say a paragraph in between the opening and the closing tag, all the text that you typed between that tags will come out as a paragraph. So example of element and an opening tag. This an element, the head element in an opening tag, and then this is it in a closing tag. So anything that will type in between this opening head element and the closing head element will come in a head, will be in a heading format. So we'll see some of the examples as we progress. Basic HTML tags. These tags are just a fraction of the basic tags developers consider fundamental to HTML programming. There is the HTML tag. There is a root element that defines everything between its opening and closing tag as HTML code. This is the head element that defines the head of the web page. This is where the JavaScript, the CSS code, and the Bootstrap code must be linked to the HTML. There is a title that defines the web page's title and is often what that shows in the search engine result. So this is where you can easily type in the title of your web page. So the H1 defines the most prominent heading on the web page, and then the paragraph defines content that lives within the paragraph and allows browsers to insert spaces between the paragraphs for legibility. Other important tags include the body tag, the anchor tag, the span, the div, the image, and other important tags that you see as we progress in this video. HTML structure. This is the basic HTML structure. The head, the body. The head will carry the title, while the body will have other elements like the H1, the H2, the paragraph, the span, the div, the image element, and so on. So these types of web development for your project. So there are basically three types: the front end development, back end development, and full stack development. So front end development. The front end development is the practice of creating a website's front end using markup languages like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So back end development Backend development is a process of creating websites infrastructure. Backend developers are responsible for conceptual framework of a website and the coding that supports it. The language used in backend includes the PHP, SQL, Python, Java, etc. Full stack development. A full stack development is creating both the front end and the back end of a web page. So the skill set of a full stack developer also includes database administration. The languages used include the main, the LAMP, etc. So code editors. The Visual Studio Code provides smart computations based on variable type, function definitions, and imported models. There is the Sublime Text, which is a beautiful and sophisticated feature code editor that gives premium coding experience. There is the Atom, is a modern and sleek-looking open source code editor of the 21st century for programmers, developed by GitHub. There is a Vim. This is a code editor that is supported by hundreds of programming languages. And then there is a Notepad++, which is a free open source code and super fast code editor written in C++, which ensures a higher execution speed and smaller program size. Today we are going to learn how to download our Visual Studio Code, which we'll be using for our project. That's Visual Studio Code will be our editor for our coding. So type VS Code, you click enter to bring you to this page. So you click on the first one, Visual Studio Code, and then you download for Windows. Click download for Windows here, and it will be automatically sent to your, it's downloading, it's automatically downloading. So our VS Code has downloaded, so we are going to click here to take us to where our VS Code is. Just wait for that. Bringing it up, this is it. So what you do is you accept, I accept the agreement, click next, next, next. Then it's setting up for, it's preparing to install the VS Code in your computer. When you're done installing, this is it installing. You give it some time to install. Now it is done installing. All you have to do is to click finish. Then our VS Code is running. So we'll say it. This is our VS Code. So this is basically it. In this video, we are going to learn how to create a folder and what a folder is. So a folder is a storage space or container where many files can be placed into groups. We can use our folder to store our files, to store our videos, to store our images, to store other things that I'll be using in our HTML project. So for us to be able to create a folder, we'll right click our mouse, come to new, and come to this place that is written folder, and you click. Our folder has been created. All you have to do is to rename it to any name of your choice. But for the purpose of this video, we are going to name it HTML folder. Okay, and we'll click enter. Then our folder has been created. This is our folder, our HTML folder. Now we can, inside this folder, we can store our files, we can store our images, we can store our videos, we can store anything, our code, whatever we are going to use in this HTML tutorial. So in this video, we are going to open up our HTML folder that we created in the previous video. So to open that, we'll come to File, we'll come to Open Folder to take us to our file. So we'll pick our HTML folder, then select it, then it has been picked. You come here, this is our HTML folder. Now we are going to create a file inside our folder. We'll click on new file, then we'll name it intro.html. As discussed earlier, this extension .html allows the browser to know that this is a HTML code and to treat it as a HTML code. So when you're done typing, you click enter, and then this is our file. This is where we'll be doing our coding, and whatever we type here will appear in the browser. So we are going to talk about the HTML tree that we saw in the previous video that we discussed previously. We are going to practicalize it here. We are going to type it. We are going to know how it feels like to actually type in the code. So for that, we are going to start with our doctype HTML. So we'll have our opening tag. Then inside it, we are going to type the doctype. This doctype has to be in doctype. Say HTML. We'll enter. We'll open tag again. We're going to type in our HTML. This will be our head section. So this head section is where you can link your document, is where you can link your CSS to your HTML, you can link your JavaScript to your HTML, you can link your Bootstrap to your HTML. So this is the title. This is where you tell the browser what you want it to display as the title of the web page. So for this particular tutorial, we are going to call this Introduction to HTML. So, and then we are going to put our closing tags. So someone will be like, why didn't we close this? We are going to close the head section below the title and below the meta cassette. So we'll enter again. We are going to type in meta cassette. This meta cassette this function is to make sure that the browser is aligned to how, like, the content of your web page is aligned to a particular screen. So we'll still talk more about that in our next videos. So we are going to say UTF, UTF 8, and then that's to that. We are going to close our head section down here, close our head section, and then we'll open our body. The body is where you're going to be typing in everything. Anything you type in within this body section is going to appear in our web browser. So anything you type into this body section will appear in the web browser. So let's close this body before we come and say something inside it. So now let's close our head section. Close our head section has been closed. Then close our HTML. Now we are going to type an actual thing into this. We are going to say our opening and closing tag. Remember, whatever you're typing in HTML has to come with an opening and a closing tag. So we'll say our paragraph. Let's use a paragraph for example. We'll write a dummy text. Then click enter. Now let's check if we are going to check if this code is displaying in our browser. So all we have to do is to come to our file, we'll right click this, and then it's working. So congratulations, we did it. I'll see you in the next video.